trim this really quick, this piece of paper, because it's kind of big. I'll be right back.
Sending data.
And we have Paula and Kathy, right?
Paula and Kathy.
I just want to make sure I'm getting your names right. Thank you.
Make this a little. There we go.
But Paula's my sister, and she's from here, so I'm here visiting.
Cool. Do you come up here very often?
I try to come here. Oh, okay, Hamilton?
Well, I mean, yeah, from where you live, do you come up here at all? No?
Farm and rural, and I've got grandkids, and on swim teams and basketball and all
Uh-huh.
that. It's like, ugh,
Yeah,
every day is something.
that's good. Keep him busy.
Okay. It's better. We got our colors menu. We'll share this palette if that is okay. Okay.
I haven't used one of those before.
Oh, the butcher tray palettes?
Yes. I'm
You're in for a
anxious to
treat.
try.
They're pretty fun. Okay.
Says we're live on Facebook, but YouTube is still sending data.
Okay.
So
YouTube. Oh, there we go. Okay.
yes.
You're right there. Okay.
Muted.
Julie says she loves watching, hasn't tried to paint yet, but she came into the shop and bought the truck. Well, Julie, try that truck because that project is super fun. Did you guys try that one?
I saw it, and that's one I want. I'm thinking Christmas
Yeah,
cards.
yeah. And then there's also the one that we had in May that had the flowers out of the bed of it too. We have
Oh.
2 trucks now.
We did harvest and
Yeah.
the pumpkins and stuff.
Yeah.
Projects.
Yeah, the trucks are really fun.
Classic look, you know.
Yes.
I've been like, every month I'm like, should I do another truck? And then I'm like, maybe I need to calm down about trucks. Maybe I should do something else.
Just take a step back. Pump the brakes, as they say.
Anne's watching. This is her first live. Welcome, Anne. Thank you so much for being here. Okay.
YouTube says it's online.
Well, welcome, YouTube.
I will try and find the live stream on the YouTubes.
I'm not sure what that means.
Well, it doesn't show it on our homepage on Let's Make Art.
Where does it
There it is.
show up?
It goes to the videos. Turns out it goes to the videos. Like it's as a video.
You mean the video we're broadcasting?
Yeah,
Broadcast as a
why
video?
would it do that? YouTube is here.
Bizarre.
They're all saying YouTube is here. You're one in a melon. That means we're seeds. Yelm, Washington?
Oh, Amelia says we need a front view of the truck now. You know what? That's not a bad idea. We have the side view and then the back view.
We could have you could have like the bumper
Yeah.
falling off.
Yeah.
Could be Mater.
Snow and
Like
lights.
Toe Mater, but without the toe.
We could totally play with the headlights.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
That'd be
Paula's
cool.
coming here taking my job. She's like, listen, I got some great ideas.
You've clearly never seen the front of a truck, Sarah. Do you even know what a tailgate is?
That's so great. No, I don't.
Neither
As
do I.
all of you know from those tutorials.
Kathy Bowman says, yes, another truck, please. Maybe a camper tutorial. Then you could tape the 2 pieces of paper together.
Ooh.
Go on a trip.
Oh, that's cute. I didn't get what they meant by tape 2 pieces of,
Yeah, what do you, I don't know.
I said that.
because it's like a hitch.
If you have a...
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cute.
I mean, that was... it's not a
Anne
big deal.
asked if the truck is easy or hard. I've actually heard good things about the truck.
Yeah.
It wasn't that bad.
Do you have the
Outline.
outline?
Yeah, for both of them we have outlines, so you guys can do that for
Tammy
sure.
says hi from Louisiana. It's also her first time.
Oh, welcome, Tammy. Thank you so much for being here.
Go Hawks.
Suzanne Aitchison is watching. Suzanne is our customer service rep, and she is the best. So hello, Suzanne. Also, she makes these little things called Carmelitas that are so good. What's in them? It's like
Caramel.
It's like a layer of caramel.
Heaven. I think she throws happiness and joy in it.
Rainbows.
Yes. Just a dash of rainbows, though.
I just remembered chocolate and caramel.
Yes.
And I'm not even a huge caramel fan, if I'm being honest.
Oats. I think there are oats.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Because I love chocolate and oats together.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Like oatmeal chocolate chip cookies are the best. Nobody does it though. They always do the raisins.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. those shouldn't be cookies.
Are you guys a fan of the oatmeal raisin?
I don't like raisins.
Oh yeah, me neither.
Yeah, same
I
pig.
like cranberries, the dried.
Ooh,
Right,
cranberries are
right.
good.
In place of the raisins.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, they've got the
White
red
chocolate.
tint.
I can get down
Yeah.
with that. I can get
Yeah.
down with some white chocolate
You
and
can
dried
trust
cranberries.
that a little more.
Something about raisins.
Yeah.
Hello from Japan.
Oh, hello, Japan. Welcome.
Wonder what time it is in Japan.
I have no idea.
Probably early in the morning.
I don't know. I've quite literally never been there. I have no idea. I could Google it real fast.
Japan.
Do you not know?
I want to say it's 14 hours ahead, but
14?
let's see. What time is
Yeah, don't be scared to start. Next time is tonight. You got to start. If you have the kit, just paint.
9 a.m.
it? Oh,
What?
sorry, 9
Danette
hours
is
ahead.
scared
Oh, yeah,
to
okay.
paint. She's got the kit. She's ready to go.
Don't be scared. That's
Yeah.
what we're here to do. We're here to help you along step by step. And at the end of it, you just have to remember it's a piece of paper. That's all it is. The worst thing that can happen is you won't like it and you'll throw it away, which everybody does, even me, so that's okay too. Micah said their granddaughter is painting with them tonight. Welcome, granddaughter.
Welcome, granddaughter.
Welcome, granddaughter.
You're right. It is 14 hours ahead.
14 hours ahead?
Right, I'm sure figure out.
Well, it depends on
It's
where,
seven.
the international
Yeah.
dateline's in
If it's
Greenwich
9 a.m.
England.
there.
Oh,
Wow. So it's 9 o'clock there?
Oh, yeah.
what time are we at, Keenan?
7:14.
Let's get started.
All
I'm
right, let's-
ready.
yeah,
Are you
let's
guys
go.
ready? Let's do this. Okay. Welcome everybody to Let's Make Art. Thank you so much for being here tonight. We are doing our watermelon project. Please show your excitement. Thank you. This project is super fun. We go over some great watercolor techniques, some of my favorite, wet on wet,
Yeah.
and wet on dry actually. We go over both. We are using 2 paintbrushes tonight, our round 6 and our round 2. These are our go-to brushes. They're Princeton Heritage Series, very wonderful brushes. They hold water, they keep a nice point, they have a good snapback, just great brushes. We're using Canson cold press watercolor paper, and we're using 4 colors tonight. So we have red and Tahoe blue and black and dandelion yellow. So those 4 colors here. And if you don't have these same exact colors, don't fret. You can absolutely still paint with us and use whatever you have at home. You basically just need a red and a black and yellow and a blue or a green, because we're using yellow and blue to mix our green for today. So what we're going to do actually before we start in our warm-ups is I'm going to introduce you to everybody because I haven't done that yet.
Perfect.
So this is Paula here, and this is Kathy. I so thought I said your name wrong, and I'm so sorry. That's why I paused, because I was like, wait a second. What if she was like, that's not my name? I've done that before on the
I
live,
would
and I was.
pretend.
You would have?
Yeah.
She's going to come on every time now.
You're
You're
I'll be
invited.
whoever you want me to be.
Yeah, and that's what I like to hear. And we have Keenan working the camera, so that's who you will hear talking.
I'm just in the background, being Keenan.
And we also have Nicole working in the background, so you might hear her laugh or say a funny comment.
You'll definitely hear her giggle, maybe typing.
And actually, Paul and Kathy are sisters.
Right.
So Kathy started because her daughter got her a subscription because she wanted to learn watercolor, and then she showed her sister, who actually doesn't live too far away from us, which is bizarre because we're both in very small towns. And so they were able to come on the live. So I'm so glad you guys are here. Okay, so we are going to start with our oath. So if everybody can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Thank you. And I like to start that way because sometimes we don't realize how anxious we're getting, and sometimes we don't realize that we're already judging ourselves before we even start. So it's good to just acknowledge that and to just be like, hey, I know your mind's telling you this. Just tell it to walk away for a minute. We're just going to have fun. So we're going to start with our warm-ups. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my brush. And the first thing I want to talk about is I want to talk about value change. And this is a warm-up we do pretty much every single time because it's important in pretty much every painting. Value change is all about the lightness and darkness of a color. And that is how you create form. So if you're drawing or painting and you have a circle, just a circle, it's two-dimensional. But if you take that circle and you add different values to it, like a highlight and a shadow, you all of a sudden have a sphere, and it is now a three-dimensional form. So value is super important when you're trying to paint anything because we're trying to make whatever we're painting dimensional. So what we're going to do is we are going to practice starting on a dark value and then transitioning into a lighter value, which is what we do in these watermelon things here. So see how that's dark and then that transitions to the light? That's what we're going to practice doing. So grab your paintbrush and get it wet, and then you want to hit it off the side of your cup a couple of times so it's not totally dripping wet. And you can totally touch your bristles on the side of the cup. There's nothing wrong with that. Just be gentle. And then I'm going to grab a color. It doesn't matter which one. And I'm going to start with my darkest value. So this is my darkest value right here.
Do that too?
You can do any color you want. And yeah, go ahead and practice. So you want to load up the belly of your paintbrush with a lot of paint, okay? And that is going to be your darkest value. And then I'm going to dip my paintbrush a couple of times, hit it off the side of my cup, and right where I left off, I'm going to keep painting to the right. And if you're left-handed, you can go the opposite way if that's easier for you. And this is a lighter value. And then just keep dipping and starting right where you left off. And every time you dip, you should be getting a lighter color. Because with watercolor, and part of the reason why I love it so much, is we don't need to add white paint to a color to make it a lighter value like you have to do with acrylic or oil or other mediums. What you do is you just add more water. It makes your paint more transparent so the white of the paper shows through more, and that is what's acting as white paint. So just keep on going until you get a barely there color. Very nice. Very nice. Yep. Just keep going. Just keep going. Yep. Yep. And this is a technique I like to use a lot, just in terms of blending out and all of those different things. So if you want to try that a couple of times till you feel comfortable, that's good. The one thing that I would like to show you guys is if you start with your dark value, and then let's say you add a lighter value, but then you swish it back and forth too much, you lose your dark and light value. It will even out across the water. So you want to make sure that if you want a value change, then you don't want to disturb the part that you want to keep dark too much, which is why when we go lighter, I kind of just start on the one side.
Should I use this one for
Yeah.
red?
Yeah, that's a good idea. And this might be a little bit harder for some, especially if you're used to kind of messing with things and you know you want it to be just so. You tend to kind of overwork things a little bit, and so I'm just reminding, just a little friendly reminder that with watercolor, if you want the values to be different, you gotta let them not touch, pretty much. Very nice.
I think I got
Very
some
nice.
blue in my.
Yeah, that's okay. That's actually almost a good color transition. Like you can transition into blue really nice. Reminds me of those popsicles.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of an element of accidental art, right? All we're doing is touching the paint right to the wet spot and it spreads. We can't really control how much it spreads. And that's why I love watercolor, because if I wanted to remake the same exact thing, that would actually be really difficult to do.
Please don't touch that one.
Okay, you like how that?
Yes, that one is so cool.
Okay, now.
I would like to say real quick,
Yes.
our studio system is telling us that we have marginal internet speed. So if something's blurry, it's gonna most likely be because the internet uploading is really slow.
One day we'll be in a place where there's just the fastest internet.
All of the internet.
You guys are
at
going to
our
be
fingertips.
so excited. Okay. So we're going to do that same thing. So this is wet on wet. So you can do it with just plain water, like what I did, just clean water and dropping color into clean water, or you can do it with a wash. So for example, if I were to do a yellow wash, okay, so it's nice and wet. Maybe I'll get it a little extra wet and then drop in some color into that. You can do that too.
There are a bunch of people on YouTube saying that it
Cut out.
yeah, it's cutting out.
Yeah, I got a comment on here saying that. Somebody said definitely doing some skipping like a rat.
Nice. That's some music. I apologize for the front camera moving a little bit. I'm trying to get this closer.
And then there's another thing that you can do with the wet on wet technique, which I also love, which is instead of doing color drops in an area, you can just do water drops. So if I were to clean off my brush and just take my damp brush and do little water drops onto some of these areas, what that does is it actually will force the color to the edge of those water drops. So this is another way that you can create some really cool textures. Yeah, isn't that fun? I think a lot of people forget that they can do that, but when I'm doing like leaves and stuff, I love just like filling it in and then just doing water drops, and you just get the best textures. And you just leave it. You put the water drops in there and you walk away. Teresa says, hooray, I'm at my second live. Love that you do these for us. Thank you. Teresa, I think I met you at the Utah Tulip Festival, and she's the greatest. She brought me chocolate. I know.
I don't want to say that that's like a favoritism thing, but I didn't get any chocolate.
Maybe I just chose not to share with you.
Huh. Interesting.
Okay. And then the very last thing that we are going to practice is called wet on dry. And this is something, a technique you want to use if you ever want your lines to be sharp. So as you can see with the wet on wet, whenever you drop color or a texture into a wet area, it's going to move and it's going to blend, and you're not going to get some sharp detail lines. But if you do want those sharp detail lines, you just have to make sure that the surface is dry before you paint on it. So for example, when we're doing our seeds, you can just go ahead and paint on like the washes, and you can use whatever color, but this is wet on dry, where you can go in and whatever marks you make, they're going to stay nice and sharp on that surface because it is dry. So you can do, if you want to do little seeds, you can. This is also a really fun technique. It might not be as exciting as the wet on wet. However, it's such a great way to just do some finishing touches on your painting. Just those last little detail lines that are so crisp and clean that can really elevate your work. Very nice. Oh, that turned out way cool. Very, very, oh, look at that one. Yes. Watercolor is the best. Okay, so I think we're ready to get started. So go ahead and set your warm-up paper to the side.
You see hope for us then?
Yes, I do. I firmly believe that you guys can do this. Now with this watermelon, we're just going to do this in 4 steps. So we're going to start off with the rind. That's step 1. Then we are going to do the, you okay?
I'm fine.
Okay. Then we're going to do the red part here. We're going to blend that out to our light pink, almost white, and then we'll do our seeds. And then we'll just repeat that for the second one. That's it.
Oh, okay.
So not too shabby. So I'm going to start with my round 6, and I'm going to mix my green. So we have yellow and blue here. Now my colors kind of ran into each other already, so I'm going to do another pile over here, just so you guys can see how I'm mixing them. Now when you're mixing a green, I know that sometimes people have a hard time with it, but just so you know, how much of the blue you mix in and how much of the yellow you mix in will show the type of green that you get. So for example, if you want like a really lemony, like a lime green, you would have more yellow than blue. If you want your color to be more of a turquoise, then you would have more blue than yellow. So there's a green, we already mixed the lime green, so just kind of play with it. And that's why I love these mixing palettes, because you can just have all the room in the world to mix. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with more of a lime green, so I'm going to have a little bit more yellow in my green mixture. And again, you can always use your scratch paper to test colors before you put them down on your paper if that makes you more comfortable. So don't.
Can I mix my own just so I get
Absolutely. Yes. And then we're going to do our rind. Now, I would like to say that if it's easier for you to sketch out your watermelon before you put color in, there is nothing wrong with that at all. Actually, do you guys want pencils or anything, or you feel good just going for it?
I'll try going for it.
Okay, great. The only thing I want you to keep in mind when you're doing these rinds is you just want to keep in mind that they're the beginning to the rest of your watermelon. So you don't want to have them, for example, you don't want your rind to be angled this way.
Right.
Because then your watermelon would go off your paper. So when you do your rind, I want you to imagine, okay, if I put my rind here, that's going to point there. That feels pretty good. I have a lot of room there. If I put it facing this way, it's going to point this way. If I have it facing this way, ooh, that's cutting it really close to my paper. So sometimes it's helpful just to take your finger and just be like, kind of envision, okay, I kind of want it down here, angled that way. That feels really good. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And so I'm going to use my 6. And then what I'm going to do this rind is I'm actually going to do more of a horizontal hold on my brush. And when you do a more horizontal hold, like sideways, you are going to use the full belly of the brush and not just the point. It's a lot easier to get a thicker line that way. So that's how I'm going to do the rind. If it's more comfortable for you to use the point and outline it first, nothing wrong with that. We got a little fly friend. Okay, so I have this light green on my brush. I'm nice and wet, and I'm just going to do a curved line that way. And you can always change it after you put it down. I mean, you can't erase it and start over, but as you can see here, my rind is kind of uneven. It can be longer, so you can always make adjustments to it after you put it down. Now, what I want to do is I want to do this fairly quickly because I want to use that wet on wet technique that we practiced. So if we want that kind of bleeding out thing that we have here and that we practice, you want to make sure that this is still wet. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll just go over it with water just to make sure that it's nice and wet. And then I'm going to take some dark green, and that just means it's going to have more green or more of the blue mixture than the yellow. And if you want it even darker, you can put a little bit of red in there. That's going to give it almost like a black hint. And then I'm just going to go along the edge and put that dark color in, like so. Yep, very nice. And it's going to bleed out in different ways. It might be a really even bleed. It might be kind of poking out in other areas. That's okay. For me, I kind of like it when it's a little uneven. So if it's too even for you, don't be afraid to just take your paintbrush and be like, come on, little guy, just get a little messy. Move around in there.
Helps to turn your paper too if you're going.
Yeah. If you want to turn your paper to the side because it's easier for you to do it at an angle, please feel free to. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that.
What about the fact that it's thinner here than there?
So you can just go up and thicken that. So if one side is thinner than the other, then I would just go in and then try and thicken it up so it's even in thickness. And I'm also, and this is another thing that you can do, is you can just drop yellow in there too. If you, I am one that just loves a pop of color, so I like dropping in just strong colors in places and just letting them be. So I dropped some yellow in there. Very nice. Very nice. Looking good. Okay, so here's my rind. That's step one. You guys did it. Congratulations. Good job. Okay, now we're going to move on to step two, which is we are going to do the red part. So I'm going to rinse my brush pretty thoroughly because red and green mixed together are complementary colors, which means they will make brown. So try and rinse your brush really good. And also it would be nice if you have clean water handy to do this part too. So we're going to do our red part. We're going to do the technique where we're going to start off with a lot of color, super dark value, and then lighten the value up as we get closer to the rind. Now, this is where you kind of need to, similar to how we did in placement, you kind of need to draw out how far you want your watermelon to go. The good news is there's like not a wrong way because I've seen some wonky shaped watermelon in my day.
Some not even cut in the shape of a triangle.
Yeah,
so,
some are cut in rectangles.
Yeah, rectangles.
I've seen that.
Same.
So you can do whatever shape you want. So if you, some people, I actually saw some people using shadows and lights to help with their angles. You can put your brush down and it will kind of show you, depending on where your light source is, where that angle matches up with your rind. So that's pretty cool.
Could you roll the R on rind, please? Like rind.
I cannot roll my R's when people ask me to.
Oh.
R.
R.
Oh! I did it. Rind.
Rind.
Fine.
Rind. Was that better?
That was good.
great.
Your first one was really good.
Yeah,
Oh, that was good.
that was good.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Okay. So, after I feel like I got my length down, so not only do you want to think about angles, but you also want to think about how long you want your watermelon piece to be. Maybe you want it really long, maybe you want it squatty. This is your painting. You get to make those decisions. If you want, I see Kathy here is using her other paintbrush to kind of help with her angles. You can absolutely do that. You can also do that to help envision the length. For example, if this is how short you want it to be, that's helpful for you to know. That's how far, and it just can help you envision what your
Starting point.
Yeah. So I feel really good about this length. This is probably about 4 inches off of my rind, I would say. Maybe closer to 5. And then what I'm going to do is just using my 6, I'm going to pick up a lot of red. And I'm just going to do this top triangle part right here. And that is step 2, just putting in that dark. And remember, you can always reshape it after you initially lay down that color, so don't stress about that. Now, after this red is laid down, I want to work fairly quickly, kind of what we did with our warm-ups, and transition to a lighter value, because if you look at watermelon, that's kind of what it does, is usually it's super concentrated red in the center, and then it kind of gets, kind of loses that color, turns almost white before it gets to the rind. So I'm going to grab some cleaner water, and just using water, I'm going to spread out this color. Now I am lifting up my paintbrushes, so there are some white spaces. And the reason why you want to lift up your paintbrush to have some white spaces is because, one, you want a value, different values going on in your painting, because that's what it is with watermelon, and also to act as glare, because watermelon is wet. And how you communicate a wet surface is by leaving white spaces for glare. And it's okay if it's not a perfect transition. It's okay if it gets a little bit darker, a little bit further down, and it seems a bit uneven. That's kind of what we want, because that's really similar to how watermelon is.
That's such a good red color.
Isn't it good?
Yes.
And then I'm just going to keep this going till I get to the rind, and hopefully by the time I get to the rind, I'm at a very, very, very light color. Now, a little trick that I can show you guys. If you're getting close to your rind and you're still blending out and it's not getting as light as you want it to, you can add water, and what you would want to do is, instead of blending down, you would blend up. So I'm starting with my light wash, and what you do when you blend, you can blend to move the paint in the direction that you want it to go. So if you want the darker colors to stay up near the top, then when you're blending, you would blend up. And then if there's a lot of pigment, it would then move up towards the top.
But you don't touch the green,
I'm not touching the green.
because that's that little white space that watermelon
Yeah,
has.
I'll probably go in and eventually touch some of the areas together. And this is where it's totally up to you, and you guys have artistic license. If you like leaving a really thin white line for that white area, you absolutely can. For me, I'm probably going to mess it up just a little bit, where in some areas they're going to touch. Now, your green, if it's still very wet, it might bleed a lot into the red. Hopefully it's dry enough now that it would just softly blend out the color, and it wouldn't like psh, into the red. You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like that.
Like a bloom,
Yeah.
but also an explosion.
Yes. And again, you can always like make adjustments. For me, I'm looking at my watermelon, and I really like how I have the sharpness along here. We should name this fly. What should we name him? Freddie?
I was going to say Frederick.
Frederick, we're trying to paint here. Do you mind? And then I'm going to go in and sharpen up actually my other corner, because I like how sharp that is. There's nothing wrong with making those adjustments as you're going. And don't feel like you're not allowed to do that, because you absolutely are. I'm also going to actually turn my paper and try and clean up one of my sides, because the red line just got a little bit uneven, and I just want to kind of even it up a little bit. Like smooth it out, you know?
I need to work on that when I'm parking in parking spaces. I'm getting more crooked all the time.
Don't you hate that when you park super crooked?
Yeah.
And then you like try and repark, and you know people are watching you, and you're just like, be nice to me.
Don't judge my driving.
Can you parallel park, Keenan?
Yes. I had to be able to pass the test for driving.
Really?
Yeah.
They don't make you do that in California.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Really?
I had a
You should
parallel park.
learn.
I never had a parallel park for my driving test. Therefore, I cannot parallel park.
I actually tried to brown nosed the person that was taking my test with me, the officer, and it didn't work at all.
Not interested?
Not at all. I was like, ah.
During my driving test, I was convinced that I wasn't allowed to take my hands off the wheels.
Yes.
Because somebody told me, do not take your hands off the wheels or else you won't pass.
Awesome.
And it was like so hot and the heater was on and she's like, how do I turn on the air conditioning? And I was like pointing with my face because I didn't want to move my hands from the wheel. I'm like, it's right there. like tell it. And then she was like, where? And then she's like, you can take your hands off the wheel. It's
She told
okay.
you
Yeah.
it's okay.
She was just like, I know.
Are you sure? Is that a trick question?
Yeah. And I'm like, are you trying to fail me? And she was just like, no. She's like, you can drive with your knees. We don't care as long as you follow the law, you know? And I was just like,
no.
She said that to me. Maybe she was just trying to make me feel really comfortable.
Or she was really trying to trick you with that one.
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, what are you going to hold your drink with if you can't?
Right.
Anyways, that's my little fun story. That looks so great. I love the watercolor textures you got on your red. Oh, same on you. Look at that. Such good textures. Okay, I'm gonna have a good one right there where I added that second layer. Okay, now we're going to repeat these steps on our other watermelon. We're not quite ready to do our seeds because this is wet and we want our seeds to stay sharp and dark. So we're gonna move on.
Do it again.
We get to do it again. Flip your paper over if that's easier for you. And we're gonna start with our rind. Now, the first way that we did our rind is I used a light green wash and then added a dark wash. We can do it a different way. This time we're gonna do it using just water and then dropping in the colors after we use just water. So, man, the Frederick is just so, you know, we had that back door open today. That's why there's these flies. Okay.
Well, the door handle is broken.
Oh, really? I don't know if we should announce that the door handle to
no,
our
it
store
was.
is broken.
Now it's quite fixed.
Now it's fixed.
Yes, yes.
Okay, good.
I think.
Oh, good. Okay, so now it's that same kind of thing. Kind of play where you want your rind to go. Think of where you want your watermelon to end up. And I'm gonna use just water. And I'm gonna use my cup that has the dirty green water because we're gonna make it green anyway. And using just water, I'm going to put in my rind. Now this might be a little bit harder because it's kind of hard to see clear water on your paper. So if you got to do it a couple times. Oh good, so you can see it fairly well. Now I always try and look off the light to see where my rind is when I'm doing that. Okay, now that I have my super wet rind, I'm going to grab my light green that I mixed and drop that in here. And I'm going to kind of drop that across the entire thing.
Unrelated to the rinds,
Yeah,
and back to driving,
yeah.
Jean says, I'm an awesome parallel parker here in Chicago.
Ooh.
You have to learn it here. I was just in Chicago for the first time.
How was it?
It was great. I had a hot dog.
How was the hot dog? Is Chicago
The
known
Chicago
for hot
dog.
dog?
I think so.
Chicago pizza.
It has,
I did have some
I think
deep
it
dish
has
pizza.
Special condiments, a special combination of condiments.
Yeah, on
Like
the
onions and relish.
So
or something.
it had some. It was actually hotter than I was expecting. It had some
Like
hot
spicy?
peppers. Yeah, spices. Some spices,
Some
peppers.
spices?
It was spices. And then some other things, and it was just phenomenal. Then I had ice cream. So, you decide.
Did you have Chicago deep dish pizza?
I did. I had a personal pan size.
How was it?
It sounds disgusting.
It was really good.
I'm not a huge fan of thick crust. I'm a thin crust gal myself.
It was.
I love the Neapolitan style pizza.
I mean, it was full.
Yeah.
I wasn't full
I
myself
feel like it's like
after
cake.
eating.
I feel like it's like meat cake.
It's like eating a really big
Doughy.
pizza.
Yeah.
Doughy. Kind of soggy.
That
Is it soggy?
no.
I have to try it.
You
I'm
have to
just
try it.
really interested.
We took the train, and it was super fun.
Okay, I'll take the train. I've
Take
heard
it.
good things.
It's a good time.
Okay, now I've been chatting. I'm gonna re-wet my light green area because it's probably pretty dry by now. And that's okay. This shows you can take a break. Just re-wet the area. And then I'm gonna take my dark green and I'm gonna go along the edge with my dark green. Now, if you just wanna do it in sections, because you know how watermelons kind of have those like stripes almost. Say yes.
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 Across the entire watermelon has like those darker, if you want to like put those in, you can, or you can let it be dark across the entire thing. Whatever you want. Or maybe like some of the darker stripes work their way up. Would they work their way up on the rind? No, because it would just be on the outside, but it's my painting, so I can do whatever I want. You know? Kathy gets it. Okay. Very nice. Ooh, look at that good texture right there.
I know.
Yeah, that looks great.
And this is all kind of,
Yeah. Yes. Ooh, look at those. Good work.
my gosh, for a beginner, this is so fun.
Yeah, isn't
Yeah,
it fun?
It is.
Okay.
If I can do it, anyone can do it. Guaranteed. I'll vouch for that.
Sister rivalries going on? Are we learning about your guys' dynamic here? Okay, now we are going to do the second step, but I wanted to show mine that somebody took a bite out of it. So I'm not doing a point on this one. However, you guys, this is your painting. I'm giving you the freedom to paint whatever you would like. So if you want to keep yours nice and pointy, you can. But what I'm going to do is when I take my red, and again, try and envision where you want it to end up. I'm going to have mine probably go about here. I'm going to do a jagged edge instead of a point.
I'm going to do that too.
So you can do 2 big curves. You can do 1 big curve. There's all different mouth sizes and teeth. So you're not wrong.
I would also like to say you don't have to put it on the very tip of the slice. You can put it on the side.
Kanan, genius.
Then you can just put a huge like tooth mouth shape right just.
Yeah. Why are you doing this?
I'm the idea guy, not the do guy.
Okay, so after you put in your little curved line, you are going to fill out the rest of your watermelon. So using just water, you're going to start spreading that red down.
Vivian says hi from Brazil.
Oh, hello, Vivian. Was that her name? Did I say that right?
Yes.
Welcome, welcome.
Megan is in Illinois. I have
Oh,
a brother that lives there. He lives in Nauvoo.
how long was the train ride to Chicago?
The train ride was it was scheduled for 8 hours, but we don't, as a passenger train, you don't have the right of way. So you have to wait for like cargo trains to go by. So it's probably 9, maybe
Never
10
on
hours.
time.
Yeah. You can't, if you have a strict schedule where your destination is, don't take the train.
Don't take the
We
train.
took it from Phoenix to Kansas City.
How long was
Whoa,
that?
how long was that?
It was overnight.
Wow.
Oh
It
my.
was like 24 hours. And the next day, that same train had a crash or
No.
Oh my goodness.
in the
some
middle
kind-
of Kansas.
So you got off right in time.
We did.
Holy
Wow.
shnikes. That's lucky.
That
it
is.
wasn't as pleasant as I expected.
Did you have beds, or were you just
We
in
had
chairs?
a sleeper car.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was tight though.
Okay, so just keep making your way down your watermelon. Again, it's up to you how much space you want to leave between your red and your green.
This is so relaxing.
Isn't it relaxing?
It is.
I love it. It's just like so good for you.
It is. Even if, like, my paintings generally don't turn out to have shape or anything that anyone can define unless because I just like to play with the colors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's just so calming.
It is.
It is.
I go to sleep immediately.
I feel like it's such a good way just to like, I don't know,
Wind down.
wind down.
Yeah.
And especially if you go into it knowing that like that's the gift in itself and it's not necessarily what comes out at the end, it's such a good thing for you. Gosh, I love the watercolor textures you got on there. That really reminds me of how, like, I feel like watermelon sometimes, like, the juices flow in different areas, and so they kind of have a veiny look to them. Yeah, I'm totally getting that
It helps
vibe.
to turn your, you know, for me, it helps to keep turning
Yeah.
my paper so I go in the right direction.
And I'm actually going to turn mine. It's helpful to turn it to check the angles of your watermelon. For example, now that I turn it, it's pretty obvious to me that there's like a curve in this watermelon. So I'm just going to go in and straighten that out. And of course, if it doesn't bother you in your own painting, don't worry about it. Oh, I got a pretty intense curve going on right there. Look at that. Whoop. That's all right. We'll straighten that up.
That almost looks like it's on its side.
I don't know what you're saying.
So if we're looking at a slice of the old watermelon that you have, on your left side of the watermelon, at least in the camera, it looks like you're looking at the slice on the side. It's like turned on the page already.
I believe you.
Okay, I'm glad you believe me.
Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome. It's really cool.
Oh, okay. And you can see here that my
Wow.
green area, my green area was pretty wet when I touched it to my red.
Right.
It bled in.
Yes.
I'm not mad about that because honestly, I think that makes a super cool texture, and I'm just gonna leave it alone.
Is there anything I can do about this? I have a designated line there to do more blending or not? Is there anything I can do
Yes.
about that or not?
Okay, so
Or
what
just
Paul
leave
is asking, so I kind of have that right here. See how I have that strong line?
Yes.
So she has a really strong line where her rind is, and if that bothers you, how dark it is, you can blend it out
With a little bit of water?
with a little bit of water. So you can take your damp brush, so you would want to get your brush wet, hit it off the side of your cup, and then you would just kind of go where that line is
Okay.
and blend out. Now, you will not get rid of that line totally because it's been drying a little bit too long. But it will
sooner the better.
soften it, yeah. Now, the other thing you want to keep in mind when you're doing this is it's not necessarily the amount of water that you have, it's more about the brush against the paper. So if you have too much water, it might not be doing it. So you can always take your paper towel and soak up the extra water. When you're blending out, you don't want your brush too wet because then the paint will just sit in that water and it won't move. So what I like to do is just get it moist, and then it's more about my bristles moving against the paper texture. Oh, our camera is swinging. It just moves when I think when I noticed that when I was filming ads, it will move when we walk around or hit it. Okay, thank you, Tiffany, for telling me. Hopefully that helped stabilize it. Okay. Is that helping at all? Mm-hmm. Good. And then you can move that green into the red as far as you want. It's okay if they overlap a little bit. When you're dealing with light washes, it won't create too much of a muddy
I'm happy.
mess. Good. That's so good to hear.
It's so good.
Okay. And I just love how that green bled out. That just was so cool. Oh yeah, look at that. Look at that yellow right there. I love that hint of yellow. Okay. Now what we are going to do is our very last step. We're going to do our seeds. So you want to make sure that your watermelon is dry. Sometimes what I'll do is I will literally touch it. Is that the best thing to do? Probably not, because if it's wet, you'll leave a fingerprint, but I also just like to go for things. So now I'm going to switch to my round 2 brush. If you feel comfortable using your round 6, you can absolutely still use it. That's the beauty of the rounds. You can still do detail work with larger brushes. But I'm going to switch to my 2. I'm going to get it wet, hit it off the side of the cup, and pick up black.
I'm going to practice on this.
Yeah. If you want to practice your seeds, you absolutely can. Seeds are kind of just like a teardrop shape. So they're pointy at the top and then curved at the bottom. The other beautiful thing about watermelon seeds is they're not in it all the same way, because sometimes you see the seed fully in its shape, and sometimes you only see the top of it because it's actually pointing into the watermelon.
Or the side of it.
So here's the seed shape. This could also be a seed shape. Maybe you see more of the point, like so. And the other thing I want to show you guys is, you know how when you're eating watermelon and you can see that there's a seed in there, but it's not on the surface, but you see that hint of seed in there? How we achieve that is just with the lighter value. So instead of using black, we would use gray. So I would just take my black, add some water to it, and do that same kind of shape, but just do it in a gray. And then that will give the illusion that it's actually deep down in the watermelon, that there's watermelon in between the seed and the surface. So it gives us that illusion, okay?
Go ahead and put the
So
seeds in.
go ahead and go for it. You can do as many seeds as you want. There's no, I mean, you guys seen watermelon. There's no really rhyme or reason to them, I feel, right?
I know very little about watermelons,
Yeah?
so I can't say you're right or wrong. But there have been some jokes on the YouTube and a fact about watermelons.
I want to hear the fact.
The fact is that watermelons are 92% water.
Is that so?
So watercolor is perfect medium.
Exactly.
It is.
The other
medium
8%
medium.
is cotton. Because you're painting it on paper.
I'm sorry, I missed it.
I just threw that in there. I just threw that in there.
Well, it was good, and I'm glad you did.
Thank you.
Okay. So I did a couple dark seeds. Now I'm going to do a lighter seed here. Did people appreciate your cotton joke?
Not mine. I will read another comment.
Oh.
It was great.
And you can put them on the edges too. Seeds are just, you know, their own thing.
Why was the orange juice factory worker fired?
Why?
He couldn't concentrate.
Oh, Debbie said seeds tend to be in the middle, not by the tip or rind. I don't know though, because I feel like I've definitely had, maybe it's how the watermelon is cut.
That's what I was just going to say. Depends on who sliced it, mom or dad.
Depends on which one's which.
I don't know. You decide.
You decide.
What is the most musical part of a chicken?
The what?
It's going to be pretty obvious.
The beak.
The drumstick.
Oh, does it have a leg? Nice.
Okay, so there are my seeds, and there's Freddie flying around. He just wants to be a part of it. I get it. He's like, painting watermelon. It's that our watermelon is so real that he's like, why can't I eat this?
Right.
Who's that?
Freddie, our fly.
Oh, yeah, that's 100% true.
Smell it.
He can smell it. It's so real.
Oh, Frederick.
Okay. Okay. Now, I know you guys are probably still working on your seeds, but I want to show you one last thing, which is I want to make a slight shadow on the top of my watermelon where there's a bite taken out of it, because right now it's pretty flat to where it almost looks like there's no dimension or thickness to this slice. Now, sometimes if you give things a little bit of a shadow, a little bit of a darker value, a hint of the other side of that piece, it all of a sudden becomes dimensional. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some red and some black to make a dark red. And I'm just going to go along the edge here. It needs to be a little bit darker. And I'm just going to show that there is a thickness to this slice by doing a darker edge.
Is that the right brush you would use, or would you use a smaller one?
It's up to you. I use my round 6, but if you feel more comfortable using a round 2, feel free to use the round 2 since this is a smaller area. And maybe you also play with your bite.
You could have a seed fall out.
You could.
Kathleen said that. How cool would it be if you just have like seeds on the paper?
A seed.
Yeah.
Right.
I think one time I painted some watermelon where the watermelons were at the top and there weren't any seeds on it, and then the seeds were raining down almost like they were clouds and raindrops.
That's cool.
I did that one time.
That sounds like a dream.
Okay, so I have,
Okay.
it was a little wet.
Okay. Yes. Let me show you what you can do. Is it okay if I paint
Sure.
on it?
Yep.
Okay. So we have Kathy's here. She's doing her seeds, and the red was a little wet where she did her black. So this is what we can do if that happens to you. You cannot totally erase, but you can lighten. So with a damp brush, what I would suggest doing is just lighten some of this gray. So I'm just taking a damp brush. I'm lifting up this red color and wiping it on my paper towel. Just trying to get rid of that excess color.
Oh, yeah, it's working.
And then once it's gone, you can take some red, mix it back in there.
And then wait for that to dry.
Wait for that to dry, and then cover it up with the dark
Let's
seed.
see. Very good.
So when things like that happen to you, don't stress out. Remember, you can always lighten with a damp brush. You can always lift up with a paper towel. If you have a Mr. Clean Magic eraser, those are really handy to use. However, they will, if you rub too hard, they will rub off your paper. So just be careful with those.
These are amazing brushes.
Aren't they great?
They really are.
Yeah, the Princeton brushes are, I don't know what type of brushes you guys use. I'm sure there's a bunch of different brands, but
I'm a beginner, so I don't know anything.
yeah. Well, I know that sometimes you might want to go with cheaper brushes, especially if you're starting out, just because you don't want to invest a lot of money. However, I think these are like $6 to $8 a piece. They last so long, and they're just so much of a better experience. Usually cheaper brushes, the hairs tend to fall out. You get really funky textures. They don't hold water very much, so you have to keep going back in for the water. If you notice yourself doing that and getting frustrated with it, it's not because you're bad at watercolor, it's because sometimes your materials that you're using are frustrating. So if you're ever interested, we sell these on our website. They're wonderful, high quality brushes. And to take care of them, because I get some questions on this, is I just rinse them, pat them off, and put them on my paper towel to dry. That's it. Don't leave them in your water cup for a long period of time. It will bend the bristles. And don't use super hot water to clean them because it will get rid of the glue that holds the bristles in there. So there are brush cleaners out there, but with my watercolor brushes, I just use water to rinse them. I don't use a brush cleaner like I would with maybe oil or acrylic. Okay, that's it.
Yeah.
You guys did it. You guys did so
I gotta
great.
do this one seed, but I'm gonna wait a minute.
Okay, yeah, wait for that to dry.
But yes.
Isn't that fun? I'm gonna do another red wash over my darkened area because it was just too dark for me. I wanted to make sure it's wet. There we go, that feels better. Keenan, are we good with that cam to do our close-ups?
Let me get it fired up here right now.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's ready.
All right, I'm gonna rip mine off and we're gonna hold it up so you guys can see what we've done.
Oh yeah, this is great.
Wow.
Don't they look good? And remember, a trick of mine is I always use a paper trimmer. If you don't like the composition of your paper, I always just take a paper trimmer and just like, I would probably cut off this so it's more centered and maybe one of the sides. So feel free to do that. Okay,
Okay,
Keenan.
Kathy, we're going to start with
Okay,
you.
Kathy, hold yours up.
Okay. There's Kathy's. Oh, this thing's wildin', getting crazy on me. Beautiful, look at that.
What did you say?
Wildin'?
Wyland?
Yeah, it's a street youth thing.
Is it?
I don't know it. I don't know if it's right. Thank you. Oh, this thing, it really does. There's Sarah. Thank you for coming today, Sarah.
Thank you for
Beautiful,
being here,
beautiful
everybody.
watermelon slices. Paula, there it is over there.
Very nice.
She says she's a beginner.
I
Look
Please.
at that. Look at her textures on her. I
know.
love
Let me see
how
if I
that
can
comes
do a
out.
little
looks
zoom
cold.
in.
Yes.
There's an iciness
It's like,
about
and
it.
veiny,
Yeah.
like the juices are flowing in there.
Beautiful. Okay.
Anne says that she does not like her finished product, but that's okay, Anne. You can always do the project again. And remember, it's just a piece of paper. And sometimes we paint things and we don't like how they turn out. I do that all the time. And you know what I do? I just go, okay, I'll try another one. Like, that's it.
Okay.
So don't let that stop you, because it doesn't matter where you are in your watercolor journey. Everybody experiences that, whether you're a beginner, medium, advanced. Sometimes you do something, you don't love it, and that's okay, because it wasn't about that. It's about this time that we just had and had fun and learning new things about us, and also it's just calming, right? It's just
Very
fun.
calming.
So, you guys are wonderful. Thank you so much for painting with me. If you painted, share your work. I know that's so scary. But when you put yourself out there, it gives other people permission to put themselves out there. And it also, you know, sometimes we feel like we can only post something if it's so good and it's perfect and there aren't any mistakes. Because then people will just say how great it is, which is wonderful. But then that also perpetuates the idea that things are perfect right from the beginning every single time, no matter where you are. And that's not true. And that's not how it is. And sometimes you just gotta put it out there and be like, you know what, I tried and I had fun, and maybe it didn't turn out how I wanted, but that's okay. So, if you're on Instagram, you can tag us in it, Let's Go Make Art, or hashtag Let's Make Art. We have a wonderful Facebook community that is so supportive. It is huge. There's a lot of people in there, and so if you're not comfortable posting your paintings to your personal page, you can join that group. Everybody is so supportive, and they understand that everybody is on a different journey. And so that's Let's Make Art Watercolor. You do have to ask to join it, but it's also a great way to see how other people are doing the projects and how other people, what they're using with these techniques they're learning in their personal work, and it's so fun. So, do I need to say anything else?
I don't think so. Other than, don't forget to tell us a joke or make us smile
Oh,
when you
yeah.
request to join.
Yeah, is that
Yeah.
still how it is?
No.
What?
I think they changed
They
it
changed
it.
because
I'm really
people
sad.
didn't
Well-
realize it was a business.
We like to smile anyway.
We do like to
Well,
smile.
you can do the live on Thursday.
Oh, Nicole is here in town doing our live Thursday. She'll be here 7:15 Central Standard Time. What project are you doing, Nicole?
Love more real.
Love More, Worry Less. It's going to be
More
super
less.
fun. Paula, Kathy, thank you so much for being
Thank
here and
you.
painting
Enjoyed
with
it.
you.
It was
I
really
had so
fun.
much fun.
Love watching you.
Thank
on
you.
Facebook. I'm
Well, now
Really?
you're going to just do
Yeah,
it with me.
yeah.
I'm going to call you and be like, Paula, come paint with me. And you're going to be like, okay. All right, thank you guys so much. Bye.